Last Sunday, we saw that a scribe came up to the Lord to put him to the test. Perhaps you remember the question that that the scribe posed to Jesus. The question was, "Who is my neighbor?" And the scribe was more interested in justifying himself than in truly seeking an answer from our Lord. This present Sunday, the situation is rather different. Jesus is not put to the test, but rather Jesus is embraced, received in the warmth of a household. So last Sunday, someone was hostile to the Lord. This present Sunday, they welcome the Lord into their house. Two sisters welcome him and give him hospitality and love. But although the context is more welcoming and more pleasant, still problems arise between the two sisters. Because if something never lacks, problems never lack. So today, what I want to share with you today in the homily is I want to analyze with you the interactions between Martha, Mary, and Jesus, to see how these three characters come together in this scene. And in that way, we can find a valuable lesson for this upcoming week. So let's break down a little bit the scene. Who was hosting the dinner? The dinner was hosted by Martha. The gospel tells us that Martha was the owner of the house. Apparently, she was a successful woman, and she had certain means at her disposal. So she invited Jesus, and she wanted to, I think, prepare a beautiful dinner for Jesus, a great evening for him. And I would say this is something very typical and something very, I think women are very gifted in this way. This past Friday, I was invited to have dinner at a young adults women household. And it was incredible to see how women think about every detail. When we got to the household, the ladies had set up candles. They had a beautiful, everything was perfect. Like women used to do, like everything is perfect. Every single detail is taken care of. If men were in charge, it would be a very, very different situation. But I'm bringing this up, and I'm speaking about this beautiful dinner on Friday because I'm sure that that was what Martha was preparing for Jesus. A beautiful evening where everything was taken care of and every detail was looked carefully into. So what happens? Jesus comes into the household, and I'm sure Jesus was very pleasantly surprised about everything and very grateful for the warm welcoming that he received. But now comes the trouble. Now comes the problems. Because Martha is the one that's serving. Martha was the one who wanted to have a great feast and banquet, and she was going, back and forth from the kitchen, probably to the dining room. But the sister Mary was just there listening to the Lord. So my sense is that Martha, number one, she felt a little jealous. Mary was getting all the attention. And Mary was the one who was spending all the time with the Lord. But Martha was the host. And Martha was the one that put everything together. And not only that, but I think that Martha gets upset and frustrated because she feels unseen. And she feels that Jesus is the one who should notice this difference in one that is serving and the other one that's idle. So Martha, who intended to make the evening very pleasant, she gets very upset and very frustrated. And she reprimands Jesus. She tells Jesus, "Haven't you noticed that I'm working and she's idle?" Like she's like, "Are you blind or something? Why don't you?" And she tell her to help me. So this is funny. The one who was the host ends up being frustrated and reprimanding the guest. Imagine that you go to someone's place for dinner and the host starts reprimanding you. That would be a little awkward, right? But Jesus draws a beautiful lesson. He draws a beautiful lesson because the Lord knows how to make every situation better. And Jesus gives them a lesson, and He also gives us a lesson on priorities. Jesus reminds Martha and Mary, and He reminds you too, that the first thing is always to receive Jesus. And the second thing is to do things for Jesus. You always first have to receive the Lord. And once you receive the Lord in the right way, then you can do things for the Lord. But the first thing is always receiving the Lord. And Mary got that right. And I think this has very useful applications for many of us. I gather that many of you here at church today perhaps are very active in the church. Perhaps some of you have small groups. Perhaps some of you are in charge of ministries, servers, readers, choir. Perhaps even some of you are missionaries. And today's gospel is a great reminder for each one of us who have a position of service or leadership with others that we always first have to receive the Lord before we do things for Him. That first, we have to learn to be in silence with Him. We have to listen to His word. We have to come to intimacy with Him. So let me ask you a question, an evaluation question. This past week, did you truly receive the Lord? Did you really make space for Him to embrace Him in your household? Did you truly spend time in silence to receive what He has to tell you? And I think this question is important for everyone, but perhaps even more urgent for those of us who are active in serving others. But there's also a flip side to things. And you know what the flip side is? What happens if you're a person who only comes to Sunday Mass? You are not really in a position of service. You're not really, you're not a missionary. You don't have a small group. Does that mean that then you don't have to receive the Lord because you're not doing a lot of things for the Lord? No. The gospel also shows us that those who receive the Lord well will never stay idle, but will always do things for the Lord. And you know who's the greatest example of what I'm saying? The saints. I want to challenge you to something. Give me the name of a saint who wasn't proactive in the salvation of others. Give me the name of a saint who wasn't doing things for the Lord. First receiving Him, but also doing things for Him. So, if you truly receive the Lord, is it possible for you not to be active? The name of a saint that comes to mind right now that really embraces these two elements, receiving and doing, just to mention one, Maximilian Kolbe. Maybe you've heard of this saint, a Polish saint. He was a religious, a Franciscan friar who was also a priest. He was a man of great prayer, profound prayer. He had a devotion to Mary, really, really deep. And this man who first embraced the Lord was active beyond imagination. He started a printing press. He started to print a magazine to spread the devotion to our Blessed Mother. He built a whole monastery where he hosted 600 friars to, work with him in this printing press. And once the printing press was set up in Poland, do you know what he did? He was so active that he decided to go to Japan. Did he know Japanese? No. Did he have money? No. But what does he show us? That he who truly embraces the Lord will never remain idle, but will be doing something for service of others, something that will help others to bring closer to the Lord. So let me finish with this. What is the lesson today? A lesson on priority. It is always more important to embrace the Lord than to do things for the Lord. So for all of us who are active, remember, first embrace, then act. But for those of you who are idle, are you truly embracing the Lord? If you were to host Him truly in your heart, would you not do something? Would you not take the initiative? Serve our brothers, serve our sisters, come up with something like Maximilian Kolbe? So brothers and sisters, let us learn from Martha and Mary that the first priority is always embracing the Lord.